Byron. Sorry. So Dennis Byron, sorry. The upcoming conference, what does it do for the region?
Hague Conference Conventions is a primary institution for private international law. And so and this is a subject matter which, and it also has to deal with issues that will impact upon issues with the family law of the child. So there is a lot of information which the persons involved in justice delivery will gain from participating in a conference of this nature.
Understand. What would be some of the specific areas we will be focusing on?
Well, I mentioned originally family law, marriage and the child, related on issues, constantly on issues of international law. We at the CCJ are very interested in the increased appreciation for family law in the region, both in terms of helping to support the work of the regional jurisdiction and the development of the single market and economy, but also in terms of supporting general judicial development and making certain that the international standards which are evidenced in regional treaties are more applicable in the way in which our courts operate.
That's true, sir. As part of the Hague Convention, there's also what you call the network of judges, where we can be able to get levels of technical assistance from our counterparts in the wider arena. Can you be able to speak to that?
Only in general terms. As you know, one of the issues is that there are no Caribbean countries which are as yet formally signed up to it. So I suppose another ancillary objective is to stimulate interest in Guyana and the other Caribbean countries to get greater participation so that people could benefit from the various opportunities that associating this area will gain. Obviously, being part of a judicial network has its benefits, and it may very well be that as a result of the activities of this week, it may stimulate and encourage greater participation among our region in this area.
Understand, sir. So, do you have any other instances that you can share with us of the need for cross-border protection of children? You want to share any examples with us?
Well, I don't have any specific instances right now, but it is a matter of great topical interest, not only in the Caribbean but in the world. There's been a lot of reports on the growth of human trafficking and abuse of children, and that is one of the reasons why this is such an important topic in security and human rights developments of the region. So this is an area, I'm certain, which ought to be of importance to participants in the conference.
Understood, sir. Now, what is it that the CCJ hopes to accomplish coming out of the conference?
Well, we are not a promoter, we are an invited participant. As I mentioned, we think that this conference will contribute enormously to the increase of legal knowledge within our region. It will support strongly the whole understanding of principles of international law, private international law, and it will also promote among the member states and the judiciaries among the member states a greater familiarity with standards affecting issues. And I go back on issues, mostly family law and laws affecting the child.
So, you keep mentioning private international law, but can I ask you what really is this private international law?
Well, international law, take for example, we live in a region where several member states interact with each other. And you have many instances where there are little principles which apply, where people have to determine if there's an issue involving contracts between people in two different nations, how do you determine which nation's law is applicable? That's a kind of simple example. But if you start to imagine, you'll see that as you go through the interaction, both commercial and social interaction between individuals who come from different countries who interact with each other, there are many instances where there's a conflict of the laws between one country and another. And one has to develop a framework for addressing these issues. In fact, that's, I think, probably how the Hague Conference started out, when it started trying to rationalize and manage the principles and rules which are applied when problems of this nature arise.
I understand. One might actually argue that perhaps the CARICOM, or one might think that CARICOM countries might have this level of unification of the laws, but really and truly be realizing that we don't. But the Hague Convention Conference actually, that's what they do. They're an international non-governmental organization that actually tries to harmonize these laws that we have to sign on to, we as member states have to sign on to.
Well, I prefer the concept of harmonization, unification. In CARICOM, there's a lot of movement in that direction. In fact, that's part of the work of our work in the original jurisdiction, developing what we call community law. And there are already some areas where that has become accepted in all member states. So we are very much interested in people becoming sensitized to this issue and being aware of the areas where it's important and assisting to make it become more real in the way how we do our business and so on.
Thank you, sir. That's true. Would you be able to share at least some of the areas where we are already working on for the community law?
Well, you walked right into the thing we talk about in the Criminal Court of Justice most often, the issue of the treaty provisions regarding freedom of movement, where we have issued 2 judgments now addressing the way in which national states need to respond to the treaty provisions concerning freedom of movement of people within the CARICOM region. As you know, the intention of the Treaty of Chacoramas was to have one single interpretation of the treaty provisions, and that interpretation would be that provided by the court. So as we get more cases, we expand the body of law that is harmonized and central within the region.
Thank you, sir. Sir, this is just a bit of the convention and heading formally within the CCJ. Do you think the CCJ has made any impact since its establishment?
Definitely. The court has celebrated its 11th anniversary, and we have made impacts both at the original jurisdiction. No, I've been using the original jurisdiction in a general sense, but in the context of the bigger discussion, when we sit in the original jurisdiction, we are sitting as an international court, applying international law in the interpretation of the treaty provision of the court. We've had a number of cases there which have been very transformative in our region. Secondly, in the appellate court, in just the 11 years dealing with only 3 countries, we have dealt with over 180 cases where we have clarified important legal provisions and resolved disputes affecting citizens within the community. In Guyana in particular, the court has done a number of issues which I think have made important developments in the related to property, and various aspects of the law within our region. So I think the answer is that there has been a definite contribution the court has already made in this 11 years of operation. And you must remember that 11 years is a very short time, you know.
That's very true.
When you think in terms of the history of judicial development over time. But even within such a period, I think we have made a very significant contribution already.
What about the fact that there's still many countries still sign on to the CCJ in their appellate jurisdiction? How do you feel about that as against the integration movement?
Well, as I said already, 11 years is not that long in the history of the region. And indications are that the discussions are moving forward and developing. We have had, as of now, 4 countries that have signed on already. And there are 2 countries which have started the process of coming on this year, both Antigua and Grenada, which are 2 countries, the only 2 countries in the region whose constitution requires a referendum, have started the legislative process to move in that direction. So we will have, the process is started in these 2 countries. My concern, basically, when these questions are asked, is that I think that it's important that civil society actually joins in the discussion. So, for example, your institution, the government news agency, could provide a lot more information about the workings and operations of the court. Because basically, our mission is not really to lobby people, but to provide information about what the court does, how it operates, information about the cases that we have tried, the case law that we develop, so that people have an opportunity to understand and decide for themselves what's good for them or not. And so we would be welcoming working with various agencies. We produce a lot of information on the court's website. And we have a communications department whose job is to interact with media generally and provide information about the work of the court.
Wonderful. What about in the areas of law enforcement and immigration? Do you think the CCJ rulings that you would have had are effective in determining clear established lines?
Yes. We had, as I mentioned, we had the case of Myri, which set out clear-cut principles, I thought. And then subsequently, we had another case where another citizen from Jamaica, Tomlinson, brought claims against the governments of Trinidad and Belize. And in their court defense, the documents that they produced to advocate their position, both governments stated that they had accepted and acted upon the decision in the Myri case. And I think that is true of the governments within the region.
Is there any other thing that you would like to share with us, information-wise, as it pertains to the Hague Convention or the CCJ?
Well, that's such a wide open question. What I would like to say, I'm very happy to be in Guyana. Guyana has been an important port of the jurisdiction of the court. And I really expect that the convention itself will be inspiring to the judiciary and legal profession and general public here. And that Guyana will continue to, in fact, we get the most cases from Guyana than from any other country up to now. So we look forward to continuing to work with Guyana as we continue working in the Supreme Court of Justice. So thank you very much for having me here.